Solo always does shots first. Singing yup no.
Yup, yup.
Singing yup no.
Chucha.
Yup no.
No.
At the Cantina Club.
All right, so my number 5 is R2D2. This is one of those characters that I forget who said it earlier, that when you see Chewbacca, you know it's Star Wars. For me, when you see R2, you know it's Star Wars. He's I mean, obviously he's been in practically every film. We already discussed that when you mentioned him earlier, Greedo, that he's been in every film except for Solo. And just everything, that little droid did it. Like Dark said, and he does it in every freaking movie. He has saved their skins more times. If it hadn't been for him, there would be no Star Wars, basically, because all the characters would be dead a long time ago. So I love it. I guess what it ultimately boils down to too is, and this is of course credit to the filmmakers themselves, to make basically a tin can with a half circle dome emote and actually make you feel something, that you can feel like you know what he's saying, you can tell where he's looking, you can get emotion from this piece of metal. That's doing something, that's saying something. So I definitely have to have R2D2 in my top 5.
So has anybody done the thought experiment, what happens if R2's not in the films in real life, like they did with what happens if Raiders, if Indy isn't in the film, basically everything turns out exactly the same? Is the because he affects absolutely nothing.
How important a character is, right, or how important the character is to the story.
So what actually happens if there's no R2?
They all die in the trash compactor.
They die in the trash compactor. It's a really short.
No, Princess Leia has no one to give the plans to.
Yeah.
So Vader wins right off the bat in the very first 5 minutes of the movie.
No movie.
She could give him to 3PO.
Actually, it would go back to episode 1, the Phantom Menace, when they're escaping the planet and R2 helps them escape the blockade. He wouldn't be there. All the other droids would have been destroyed, and they would have been captured or destroyed. And so episode 1 would have been over after half an hour, and there would have been no Luke and Leia, and there would have been no Star Wars. So Corellian's right.
Corellian's right. Yeah, there's no fun thought experiment here.
Yeah. By the way, let me bow to my superior officer, Grand Moff Tarkin the Otter, who is our special guest for the top 5.
Yay. You're welcome.
Can you say something arrogant in a British accent, please?
Nope.
Can you go like an otter? Can you polish a rock in your chest?
Clean a clam. Clean a clam on a rock. That's more my speed than arrogant British hoo-ha. Clam cleaning.
Okay. So moving along.
Moving along to my number 4, Anakin Skywalker. And I do mean pre-Vader Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
So, because, I mean, argue with me all you want. I'm just
going to stare at you.
The Star Wars story is Anakin's story. You can argue Luke all you want. It's Anakin's story.
Okay.
And the fact that, okay, Hayden Christensen aside.
How can you put Hayden Christensen aside? He's Anakin Skywalker
pre-Vader. The acting and the poor acting.
Whoa, hang on a second.
I should say. Okay, so again, this is another reason why you've got to watch the Clone Wars, Gundark. Because
okay. Now I see what we're talking about.
He fleshes out that character so well that you can't sit there and watch, 6 seasons of this character and not have it change your perspective. And this is what Dave Filoni has done with Clone Wars. He's managed to change your perspective on what you thought previously about certain characters, because he managed to write them and animate them and put them in stories, compelling enough stories to where he's not the sniveling little whiny, man boy that we grew to loathe in some of the prequels. He's actually
really proving your case, aren't you?
Good character. I mean, it completely changes your opinion of that character. So that's why he's gone up in my estimation. So Anakin Skywalker comes in at number 4 for me.
Wow, that is a shocker.
I mean, that just shows what Clone Wars.
Grand Moff Tarkin is having a seizure down there.
Yeah, to recuperate Anakin from the prequels is amazing. I've got to watch Clone Wars now.
You really do. Okay, so
we also have to have a top 10 stupidest character names in Star Wars at some point, and Anakin would definitely come in there somewhere as well. Just my opinion. He'd be on my list.
All right, so I guess we're at number 4 for Gundark.
I'm still at number 5.
Okay, we'll go for number 5.
I'm on my number 5.
Oh my goodness, I skipped one. I completely skipped one.
You don't get it back. It's over. You're stuck with Anakin for 2 spots.
I'll just throw it in there. I should have gone 6-5, and I went 5-4. My mistake.
We're not going to get to hear R5D4 and his incredible character exposition in the Clone Wars for your
come on,
5.
It's Sice Noodles, for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah. Her incredible journey from unknown singer to top of the chart.
To exploded on
Tatooine. And what was the elevator accident that elongated her lips like that? We all know that was explained in Clone Wars episode 18, season 12.
Okay. Oh, I totally screwed this up. Okay, so my number 6 was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
And for obvious reasons, Alec Guinness, obviously introduced the character to us. We've talked about it already a little bit about how he brought, kind of a bit of gravitas to the original Star Wars, bringing that actor in and having him give basically a little bit of legitimacy to the film. And then with Ewan McGregor's portrayal, with the portrayal of the character in the Clone Wars and Rebels, and even in the novels as well, the expanded universe novels. He's a great teacher. He's a great. Obviously we first see him as a Padawan learner, and then he moves into actually being Anakin's mentor, and just done the whole tie that basically bridges the whole thing from Anakin through to basically pre-Anakin all the way through Luke. So so number 6 was Obi-Wan, 5 R2, 4 Anakin, and I will be skipped next time around. So
I'm curious because I haven't
whole top 10 list in one shot.
I haven't watched all this
Grand
other
Moff
stuff.
Tarko, what are you saying?
Yes,
I haven't watched all the extended stuff and the clone stuff and whatever. So, do they expand upon him being a lying sack of crap in the Clone Wars?
No, that's all him.
Like
from the first.
They don't feel the need to explore.
Trilogy.
They don't explore the deep.
That's the original trilogy.
I will say that I put the Emperor Palpatine as my number 7 character, and I said he was the only character that I felt was successfully redefined by the prequels, because he was just kind of a annoying character in Return of the Jedi that was one note, and they turned him into a completely different character for the prequels and showed you his journey. I would have loved it if we had shown the origin of Obi-Wan being more of a trickster and cunning and manipulating people a little bit, not just the true hero, even though it's hard to imagine and he should be a hero. But I would have loved to see like an Odysseus style Obi-Wan winning battles with the Trojan horse type stuff, and not afraid to manipulate the truth, and didn't really get that backstory. But so that is a good point. I don't think they ever really addressed that.
I sort of threw it out as a throwaway joke, but I'm glad it led to something actual obsessive.
Yeah, no, we're obsessed with Star Wars characters in Star Wars for years and years and years. So, before the prequels came out, I was like, oh God, wouldn't it be awesome if Obi-Wan was the villain and caused all this to happen by kind of sort of being an anti-hero. I don't think that would have been a good way to go ultimately, but it would have been really interesting and the kind of thing that people claim they want to see. They claim they want to see something new. So it would have been cool to give us that. But is it back
full
to
disclosure? Full disclosure, I get Obi-Wan, you lying sack of crap, from you guys.
Right.
I don't know if you remember. I think you did a cartoon or something. Obi-Wan, you lying sack of crap.
That's vaguely familiar to me.
Sounds
like from you guys, yeah.
It sounds like the rarefied type of language I would use. But
I'm not sure it was you. I think it was your sister.
It may have been me.
So Gundark, who was your number 5 again?
My number 5 is R2D2. So
okay. So you still have yet to go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. My number 5 is R2D2, and I don't have much more to say. You guys have said it. He's the best droid in Star Wars, hands down. There is no argument. I will not accept any argument. R2D2 is the best droid ever. He saved them multiple times. Grand Moff Tarka asked, what would Star Wars be without R2-D2? there are so many times where there would just be no.
It'd be a lying sack of crap in a hut.
I mean,
That's
for
what
the
it would be.
beginning. Okay, yeah, C-3PO. Come on, Grandma off target.
We'd see Luke harvesting sand. His uncle's like, "Have you got that sand harvested yet?"
No. I mean, that's not gonna work. No. R2D2 is the one who had the smarts, the initiative. He shows the advantage of having a droid that can think beyond the programming, smarter than most of the humans who are probably involved in the programming of it. He's so much better than, I think of that L3 droid from Solo that was trying the droid revolution, and R2's the smart one who doesn't even have to go there, you know.
I have a legitimate question. So if in a lot of these movies, Lucas and Spielberg, there's like the kid character, right? The toy friendly kid character, and R2 is like a wonderful example of that without being cloying or looking extraneous. I guess, does anything else, that's not a question, was there anything else that matches that? Like, E.T. doesn't count. That's the center of the film. Like, I don't know what other one becomes a real character like that.
No.
In the full way.
Actually, like HAL 9000 or whatever that from 2001. If you're talking about inanimate objects kind of being a character.
I'm talking the cutesy, like Yoda is one.
Okay, well then
So the thing they put in there, that they put in there in part to be like, here's a focal point for kids, right? And R2 clearly is one of those. But they managed to make this little non-speaking, very cute, undeniably cute thing that appeals to the kids and then is marketable as a toy into this character that you actually care about.
I think R2D2 was the one who cursed his head off all the time. And R2D2 is the profane one.
I agree.
I've always thought that. Tell you where to stick it, you know?
I just love the profanity.
Absolutely.
He's a character, you're right, designed kind of as a kid-friendly thing, an approachable thing, but that is also a reflection of the characters from the Hidden Fortress, the two peasant characters who are like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern or something. Right. They're witnesses to history, and they're actually kind of dramatic, comedic, tragic characters all in one. And that, so that kind of shows you the depth that they were drawing there. You got Jar Jar as an example of a character designed to sell toys and for kids, and then you got R2. And we had it good when we were kids. Let's put it that way. Also, you've all mentioned R2. R2's made all of three of our lists, and we haven't mentioned Ben Burtt. And Ben Burtt's a champion, genius, and amazing sound guy. I love sound. We're
for all of Star Wars,
we're
not
both
just
kind of
R2.
sound guys.
He's one of those integral people who just made it what it is.
Yeah, so R2 had to make it into the top 5 for me. So R2's in the top 5.
Think about what a disaster it would have been if they had overdubbed that with someone's voice.
Oh, God.
Just how different everything would be. And so much stuff had to happen for Star Wars to come out the way it did. And for that character to be designed that way. Anyway, brilliant choice. That was your number 5?
Yes.
My number 5 is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'll be brief because we've talked about him already. But a lot of it comes from Alec Guinness in the first Star Wars movie. He was the anchor that walked us kind of gently through this galaxy far, far away. And he was the one good British dude. every other British dude is completely
evil.
Evil British.
So we had some of us watched Masterpiece Theater back then when we were kids, and some of us watched Doctor Who and British things. Hey. So anyway, he was the one good British guy. And also, I always go back to that scene when he talks about Luke's father and, how did my father die? When he takes that breath for a second.
That breath. Yeah, that pregnant pause there.
Right. How much of Star Wars was legitimized and sprang from that? How many ideas, the creator and the actors interpreting back and forth and getting inspiration from each other. I always wonder, did a bunch of that intent come from that moment and from that actor's performance? Also, you could say that Obi-Wan is the quintessential Jedi Knight because he is the only one that remains true to the ideals of the Jedi, really through all the movies and all the appearances that he's in. And you can't really, even to the point where his lies and stuff are kind of justified in the prequels by the Jedi's kind of weird, truth being a point of view sort of thing. But in his actions and his self-sacrifice and everything like that, he's the quintessential Jedi Knight. So, but because of Alec Guinness mostly, Obi-Wan's number 5 for me. So, Gundark, what's your number 4?
Can I just say something about Obi-Wan real quick?
It's actually your turn again, Greedo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me jump in about Alec Guinness. We were talking about the weird Star Wars names earlier, and when you think back, you go back to the first Star Wars movie, and today most people know, well, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a character from Star Wars. You know, the name is no big deal. But when you first go to that movie and you hear that name, it's so utterly ridiculous. And then to have Alec Guinness say Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it became a real character, you know, to have, he was able to take a name of something just totally foolish, idiotic, and make it sound
If you think about it, every character in the first Star Wars movie had to say their name. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue. Han Solo, Captain Millennium Falcon, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everybody kind of had to say. Darth Vader didn't walk in and go, "Vader's here." You know, he didn't do that. But other than that, everybody had to say it, and they had to sell it. You know, I think they said they had to go back and redub that because he said, "I'm Luke Starkiller" originally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're getting way off the subject, but yeah. So what is my number 4? I need to go number 4. Darth Vader. Darth Vader is my number 4. Hey, kid.
Wait. Rexy, who's your favorite?
Someone in the other room is her favorite.
She said the new one. She meant the new Jedi.
Right.
Ray.
Ray is her favorite.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
She looks a little bit like Ray.
She does, actually.
She does. Her father's a Grand Moff. I don't know how she feels about that.
At least she is.
My number 4 is Darth Vader, and in a way, Darth Vader is the number 1 character of Star Wars. He's definitely the most marketable. He's definitely the one with the most amount of fans all the way across the board. Who hates Darth Vader? No one. They tried to make us hate him in the prequels, but it was impossible. You know, that almost made me hate him, but it became funny. It was actually good.
Yeah.
And anyway, he should be higher probably, but I'm old school. I'm the heroes type guy. I'm not, even though I love all the dark stuff and everything. I'm just not going to elevate that. And I really don't think about Anakin that much. Sorry, Carillion. I just think Anakin's a weak character and a bitch, and really just pretty rotten character. Clone Wars, he's really great. He really is great in Clone Wars, but I still have a disconnect there. I go with what I see in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Rogue One. Vader knocked it out of the park at the end of that, redeemed, any other missteps that they had with him in that movie. Greatest villain of all time, hands down. Another great bit of casting with every single person involved. James Earl Jones, Dave Prowse, Bob Anderson. I don't know who else is the moderns. There's been some other actors played Vader in the modern times, but that original casting of those three, Bob Anderson for the sword work, Dave Prowse for the physique, and believe it or not, his physical acting's great. Mm-hmm. How many gestures it's just totally Vader that came from Dave Prowse. It's combined with James Earl Jones' voice to deliver, the message.
Of course,
but the body language, over time it becomes sort of humorous, because it's so exaggerated or whatever. But it's iconic as well. And the costume design, everybody that worked on Vader and everything, they could have taken that way too far. But they kept it just this side of Japanese samurai and leather and all that stuff, and the big cape and everything. They kept it, and then Ben Burtt with the breathing and the sounds that he all put together,
right?
And the red lightsaber. Should be higher, but for me, it's number 4.
Quick show of hands. Who here has dressed as Darth Vader? just had to clear that up.
I haven't.
And I'm a little disappointed.
I have. I forgot.
Yeah, you have. I've got a picture of it here.
Yeah, we've got pictures of it.
Twice, in fact.
I went so far as to have, back in the old days, I had the portable tape recorder shoved in the collar with a loop of his breathing. So it echoed through the helmet. And when you took the helmet off, I had the melted face.
That was the best.
As well. Yeah.
So when I went dressed as Vader, guess who my date was?
Ooh.
Panda Bear.
Tarkin? I don't know.
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt and Darth Vader.
In one of those inflatable costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those are great. Yeah, those are great.
Those are so great.
Another character.
Some friends had an alien re-wedding, and we went as that. I think Rexy was Leia.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
Nice.
Okay, so where are we? I was on number 4, so it's Gundark's number 4.
Yeah.
Oh, me? Okay. Han Solo.
Okay, wow. Well, dropping all the way to number 4.
Yeah, Han Solo.
That's a disgrace.
Come on.
How dare you?
I'll explain my reasons for the others when I get to them, but yeah.
Damn you, Alden Aaron Reichenberger.
No, Han Solo. I guess I'll hold off on some of the reasons until I get to my top 3. But reasons why I love Han Solo is you need an anti-hero. Even when you have a story arc that focuses on a hero, you really need an anti-hero. And from his introduction in the cantina in Star Wars A New Hope, you had that moment where he shoots Greedo under the table, getting shot in the gut. When you think that you've triumphed over the dude you think you're going to carry away dead, is like incredible spaghetti western wonderful moment. And to see his story arc where he evolves beyond that ruthlessness to really connect to other characters, where he truly seems to love them. Not just the love that developed between him and Leia, but the connection with Luke was wonderful. Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford's connections, they really sold a kind of brotherhood between those characters. And then I loved him in Force Awakens. I thought he really helped to rejuvenate the whole Star Wars main storyline in the new films with that. I thought it was a good choice to have him be the one to be a legacy character to be focused on in that film, for the first film to come back in however many 30 years or whatever with those characters. And I liked his death, and I felt his death was appropriate in that film. I thought that he died trying to save his child. And to me, that kind of showed the evolution of the character from the badass that's shooting under the table to somebody who's willing to sacrifice for family, who's made a family and is trying to recuperate it, to bring it back. So Han, of course, Harrison Ford, I'll leave it to you guys because I know Han will be higher on somebody's list. Let's talk about Harrison Ford.
We're looking at you, Carillion.
Yeah. But yeah, he had to be in the top 5 for me, but I'll get to reasons why.
That's cool.
Other 3 or more.
I'm intrigued. Like, will it be Han or will it be Vader in Carillion's top spot? Because I really just believe it's going to be Vader, but I don't see how he can turn his back on Han Solo either.
On that death. So that death basically made I need a name for her. Made her not want to watch any more of the movies.
Oh no!
Oh
no! It's seriously been a little bit of teeth pulling to get her to watch anything.
Oh wow!
After the Han.
You should maybe we can call her Scavenger, because she likes Rey, and Rey was a scavenger, and the scavenger would be something in the cantina as well.
There you go.
Well, I might call
Little
her
Scavenger. You got a rap name, Lil Scavenger.
Little Scavenger.
Yes, she's only happened to see movies after that because that death.
Wow, really?
What was it about that death that upset her so much?
She watched the original movies with me when she was really young, and she had a period of being obsessed with them. And I'm nowhere near as focused as you guys are, obviously, but that's my childhood too. And she loved them. I don't know, she was like 4 maybe when we were watching those movies. And so when we come back to that movie then and she sees that's one of the characters she already loves.
Mm.
Sure.
And his death she's like, nah, done.
And I'm done.
It was a pretty intense thing to put in a movie that all ages were going to be going to.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't really shy away from it. They lingered on it and showed it full on. And I'm going to get to that in a second, but I've never had a reaction in a movie theater to anything like I did to that one scene, except this is going to sound stupid, incredibly stupid, and make you reevaluate your life. Schindler's List. That's the only movie that ever affected me in an emotional state. It has nothing to do with each other, but emotional states. Schindler's List is one of the most relentless movies I've ever seen.
It really is.
And by the end, I was just an emotional wreck. And that moment in Force Awakens was like that compressed into just a minute or whatever. And I almost couldn't look. And it reminded me of when we went to see Jaws and Quint slid down into the shark's mouth, and me and Sherry were sitting next to each other, and we both just kind of grabbed each other and looked away, and she was like, "Tell me when it's over." I was like, "I ain't looking either. I don't know when it's over." So anyway, where were we at? We were back to
that was my number 4.
Turn. And since I already did my number 4 at Anakin, I'll just do 1. I'll do my number 3. So normally I should be doing 4 and 3 at this point. Okay,
Stop
4
with Anakin over there.
I was afraid it was going to go lower.
All right, so my number 3 is Luke Skywalker.
What?
Yep.
Okay,
Luke
that
Skywalker.
makes sense.
Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised at that at all, actually.
If I could do basic math, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, if you could do basic math based on what you just said 5 minutes ago.
Right.
You already answered your own question.
All right, I'm disconnecting you from the chat.
You are expelled.
And guest appearance is
Evacuate in your moment of failure. Yes, I will.
Just remember that even in the midst of being harassed for your math, you're being harassed for your math because you're clearly right.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. You're back in my good graces.
I'm back in, huh?
Yeah. What do you have? What do you have? Flippers or little clawed hands? I don't remember. Whatever they are. There you go. All right. Sorry, Carillion. This is your moment.
I mean, honestly, when we get to this point of the countdown, I don't know really what else needs to be said. We're almost to the point of like mic drop point. Time at this point. It's like Luke, mic drop next. It's like
right.
Why? These characters are in the top 3.
You could pull a really fast one and just somebody out of the blue. If maybe one of your last 2 isn't, maybe Brian's.
I did that in the lower part. The part.
He did
It's not Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Skywalker, the clone from Dark Empire comics.
Yeah,
It's Luke Skywalker's hand coming in at number 4.
It's Luke Skywalker, but only Lego.
Number 3. Oh man, I got our next band name, Luke Skywalker's hand. That would be great.
All right, so Luke Skywalker for all the obvious reasons. Honestly, I don't know if I really even need to go into it. He's the face of the franchise, as it were, as far as the original trilogy is concerned. He's the hero that everybody thinks they are when they first see the original films. The kind of the whiny kid from the backwater town who rises up to become the hero. So in that age-old type of story, that's who everybody identified with. So he's and just Mark Hamill's performance, come on. In the original trilogy, it was just amazing. It really was incredible. And just to see not only the character story arc, but the way Mark pulled that off. I mean, look at Luke from when we first see him on Tatooine to Return of the Jedi. It's like a completely different character. And he managed to really pull that off and make it believable. So
sort of like The Last Jedi, completely different character. But yeah.
And he spent an entire film acting with a puppet. So.
Right. Exactly.
And having a director that was a puppet.
Isn't he also the only character in the original trilogy who actually looks like he's from the 70s?
Yes.
Well, I think Han Solo in the first one looks quite a bit like it.
I thought you were going to pull. I didn't think you were going to pull out Solo. I thought you were going to pull out Lando.
Oh well, yeah.
Lando just exudes the spirit of the 70s. Essence. So.
You're thinking of Disco Lando.
I am. There's never a moment when I'm not thinking of Disco Lando.
All right, so are we back to Gundark now?
Yeah, we're back to Gundark.
William was just doing the one.
Number 3.
Okay. My number 3 is Princess Leia.
Very nice.
Princess Leia. And I had to place her above Han Solo because I think it's been over time. I might have, when I was younger, I might have chosen Han Solo to be in my number 3 spot. But growing older, I began to recognize the impact that Princess Leia had on me as a role model, as a girl, and I didn't really, I think, realize that when I was a kid. Um, I think that, I guess it was kind of unconsciously, that role model helped me to feel that women had the same capabilities as men. I never grew up questioning that because I saw a character like that on screen, like Carillion said earlier, who's just leading the guys, and she was only 19 years, Carrie Fisher was 19 years old when she first played that role. And she was in control in most of the scenes with Han and Luke. She was the one, who knew what to do. And standing up to Darth Vader, I think my favorite scene with her is the first scene where she appears and she's in the corridor of the 1084, 5'2" little woman in a white dress with weird buns on her head, standing up to the guy in the black leather who's 7.5 feet tall in a mask. And then having to deliver the corny line, Darth Vader, only you could be so bold, in the fake British accent. And yet Carrie Fisher sold it completely. I mean, and I think about, I think in one of our Trench One episodes, we talked about all of the Imperials who have messed with Darth Vader. You have all those British characters who try to defy him in different ways or screw with this big guy. And they all always appeared foolhardy, but she just appeared unbreakable. It's just like she knew what she was doing. She was right, and there was no reason for her to behave otherwise. And so I think she kind of had an unconscious impact on me that I only begin to understand whenever, as an adult, I begin to see the real obstacles that women face in male-dominated environments. And I begin to think about how I had never had a real sense of that because of characters like that in the movies, and she was one of the first. And because of my mom's impact on my own life, as a single mother, divorced mother, raising 2 children and working the same time as when we first went to the Star Wars movies was when that was going on. And so I think those role models in real life and in the Star Wars films had a powerful impact on me that I'm only just becoming aware of. So she's my number 3. Okay. Definitely top 5, but number 3.
Groovy.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Modern technology at its best. I'm blaming you.
Are you receiving a hologram?
It's not me.
He who smelt it.
You smelled it melted. Yeah, okay.
He who heard it.
So we just followed all of that with "He who smelt it dealt it."
We did.
I mean, I only did the first half. But
I was gonna stop and not do my remark that came to mind at the beginning of that, which was you didn't know how much she influenced you. You realized you had Return of the Jedi hair when I first met you.
Right.
But I didn't want to sully the moment, but then He who smelt it dealt it happened. So.
That is true.
Just savor the moment. All right. So where are we now?
You're ready for your number 2.
Yeah.
Have you done 3 yet?
3.
I haven't done.
We're going from.
That was your number 3.
Going from He who smelt it dealt it to we're ready for your number 2. I don't even drop out of this call.
Are you doing number 1 or number 2? Well, right now I'm doing number 3. Figure that one out. All right, my number 3 is Han Solo, and number 3 and number 2 are interchangeable for me. It doesn't matter, but maybe because the Solo movie, he took to me. I know you guys love the Solo movie, and I liked it, but he might have taken a little tarnishing there, and I can't really count the sequels too much. Although Harrison Ford was great, and it was Han Solo and everything, I just think the character there was a missed opportunity there again because I don't appreciate the way they took the original trilogy characters in the sequels and set them all back to where they started in the first movie. Han Solo went right back to being a smuggler and pirate and wanting the reward over the idealism. And Leia went back to being a general and a rebellion leader. It just seemed like the most unoriginal, plan to follow through with those three characters. And then, of course, they make, Luke into Obi-Wan or Yoda or whatever. So, but anyway, in the original trilogy, I mean, Han Solo's untouchable. He's amazing. He's the cool character. He's the one that lets you in on the joke and that this whole thing is ridiculous, but still it makes it fun. It makes you want to believe in it. He's also the cynic and has the clearest. Well, it's one of the things I guess that's great about the original trilogy is those two male leads have clear character arcs, and Han goes from the one saying I've never seen anything that would make me believe in an all-powerful force that controls everything, to a guy explaining the Force to the new characters in The Force Awakens, and that's not how the Force works and all that stuff. So at least they let him progress enough to make him understand and believe in what he saw with his own eyes, and to understand the significance of the events he saw with his own eyes. So in a way, he's kind of the one that, if you're kind of not fully invested in this and you don't believe in it, he drew you in and you liked him because he's cracking jokes about the whole thing. Yeah. And he's also a gunslinger. He's an American icon because he's John Wayne combined with, a race car driver or whatever. He's also the guy working out in his yard on his Camaro or whatever. So, and Harrison Ford, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about all the different actors and their acting styles and stuff, but I love the moment in Empire where Luke and Han say goodbye in the Hoth hangar, and the look that they got out of Harrison Ford in that moment. There's a lot of cool foreshadowing there, and who knows what he's thinking, but he does have some regrets in life, I think, and that gets deeper as it goes along to the sequels and stuff. Didn't really have a whole lot of use for him in the Solo film. I really think his character was expendable, and it should have been a Lando film. It should have been Lando and Chewbacca. But anyway, he could be number one. He could be number two, whatever. For me right now, I'm putting him at number three. So moving along. But definitely the coolest character, the most fun probably of the main characters.
Agreed.
Oh, and I did want to say, I keep forgetting stuff, but that moment in The Force Awakens where they killed him off, I seriously thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah,
That is the worst I've ever felt in a movie. I didn't want to look. I couldn't believe. I didn't catch on. I was really stupid in that movie. I was enjoying myself so much that it was a fun Star Wars romp, that I did not see it coming until he stepped forward and you saw the shot of the bridge. And I thought, oh no, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader again. And I said to Gundark, who was sitting next to me, like she is for almost every Star Wars movie, I said, oh no, I don't like where this is going at all. And it that crushed our mother. Our mother, it has no use for Star Wars. Just like Rexy, she once she saw that scene, she understood it.
Scavenger.
Yeah,
Scavenger. Yeah.
And she understood it. She understood why they did it, but she has no use for it. It's like you did, in her mind, you don't do that, and the way they did it, and his own son killing him and stuff. My point of view was, if you're going to do that, you got to deliver on the next one. You really have to make it worth something, and to me, they failed on that. So
obviously didn't do that. So
no, but that shows you how important Han Solo as a character was to me. Was that I was freaking devastated at that point in the movie, and the first time we saw it, I really had no concept of what happened next. I didn't really come to until the end of the fight scene with Kylo and Rey. So I was still processing what I saw and what happened.
I didn't get to have that experience because it came out while I was abroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw it in a movie theater in Dubai after I already.
You already knew what was going to happen?
Sorry.
Huzzah!
I already knew. If I'm remembering right, that's where I saw it, and it was just me alone in a movie theater, and for like $800 in Dubai or whatever. And
to see Han Solo die.
Yep, he died. Yeah.
Don't you mean Desert Planet? No.
Yeah, it kind of was Desert Planet there, yeah.
Right.
I got caught in an actual sandstorm, so you know.
There you go.
And while we're mentioning Han Solo real quick, does anybody think he's coming back in the next movie to round things up? No. Okay, we're all in agreement on that. All right. So that was my number 3. So is it me again for number 2?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is Princess Leia Organa. Again, interchangeable with Han Solo, but I think with these new movies, the Mary Poppins Leia scene aside, that's the one scene I would like to throw out. There's something about the just the impact of Carrie Fisher's death, I think, that has elevated the character into this melancholy zone that really makes the scenes much more effective. I'm not saying people should die for their art, for good art or whatever, at all. But I think I just appreciated the character more and more over time. And, adventures kind of end at some point and people get older and, but they still have to have moral principles and be a sound character. And I love the fact that she's really the one character that never wavered on what she believes in. And, again, we've talked about it already. Carrie Fisher's amazing, and she actually did a lot of work on those scripts. I think maybe for all certainly for the newer movies, and she did a lot of stuff uncredited, I think. And so anyway, my one big regret about that character is that they did not pursue the promise from Return of the Jedi, which is you have that power too, and you will learn to use it as I have. That was that was a certain thing, to me. Luke is and any Jedi that they develop the power to see the future, but not only that, but he had absolute faith in her, and it's a shame that nobody writing anything else had the faith in her to pursue that, because we've already seen that no matter how kind of limited Carrie Fisher may have been in the role physically, the Force is the perfect out to give you all kinds of abilities where you don't have to do a huge physical performance or anything. So I don't understand in an era where they want to empower women and where they go out of their way to really make it, top of the priority list to have a female protagonist that's very powerful and stuff. Why you would kind of take the power away from one that you have that's perfectly suited for it, and kind of diminish, put on a diminished role on that. It's annoying to me that character and that actress was put in that position over and over again. To me, it seems like after Star Wars, Empire was Harrison Ford's movie, and she was in a supporting role definitely to him. And Jedi, she's still kind of in the wings, and it would have been great to really bring her out and let her shine in the sequels and do something different rather than put her back to square one and just make her a political leader in the, brave revolutionary or whatever. But anyway, because of that, the fact that they turned her into Luke's sister or Luke into Leia's sister, Luke was originally supposed to be a female character. I guess that's one reason why we've come full circle and we've got Rey now. Then Luke's sister was supposed to show up at some point in Empire or Jedi and have been trained somewhere else by Obi-Wan or something like that. And so there's a whole lot of conflicting things that go in there that they kind of, instead of like taking the original Princess Leia character, they kind of morph the character into all these different things. And it would have been, there's a lot of potential that didn't come forward, but the fact that she was a Skywalker and everything, I love that. And over time, I guess that family legacy and stuff became more important to me. I love the connection between the actors. And so right now, that's the number 2 character for me. And I do want to see how they write her out in the next one, but I'm also dreading it because I've lost faith in their ability to really deliver on what these characters deserve, for sure. So in my mind anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the number 2 for me.
So with 2 Leias in a row, is Amy going to do shout out to Gloria Katz?
Shout out to Gloria Katz.
I'm not kidding. I wouldn't know because I'm not as into it, but because of the death pool stuff, because I track celebrities who die, because I'm a freak apparently. Her writing on the script is what did a lot to make her a stronger character and a character holding her own with these guys.
Yeah.
So that's true. That's true. But also, from everything I've seen, Lucas was adamant that she be a certain way, and so the writing and everything and the input may have come from other sources, but the concept was still there that he wanted her to be equal to any male. And I really, when I see that character in the first Star Wars movie, I think of Olivia de Havilland, especially from Robin Hood when she's going off on the Normans, and you're a bunch of beasts drunk on human blood or whatever, human suffering or whatever.
Yeah.
She, that really think that they're channeling that character or in that actress in that performance a little bit in there, and even down to having a little bit of British accent in there.
Olivia de
But anyway,
Havilland, yeah.
yeah,
She
I
looked a
really,
lot like a young Carrie Fisher did, yeah.
maybe it's because I love that movie so much and that character so much, but there's some definite similarities in there, I think.
So I'm gonna have to limit my shout out to Gloria Katz as screenwriter of Howard the Duck. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I know that was included in her.
Okay, so we're to Carillion's number 2.
Nope.
No, is it Gundark's number 2?
Gundark's number 2.
Gundark's number 2.
My number 2 is Darth Vader. And again, what has been said before about the iconic costume, the kind of dark samurai choice, the sound design with the breathing, the wonderful presence of Dave Prowse, physical presence, and then the voice of James Earl Jones. But I have to say, beyond that, I like the idea of the fallen angel motif. Even from the beginning, before we knew that he was Anakin Skywalker, we knew that he had been a Jedi evidently in the past. He'd been a good Jedi.
Right.
So the idea of a good character who falls from a great height to become something so terrible, the kind of satanic villains are always the most interesting because they're most like us. And then that's expanded on with the relationship with his son. Whenever you find out that they're related, it takes his villainy to a whole new level. And the prequels couldn't destroy him. At least 2 poor prequel movies. I know that Revenge of the Sith is still the number 3 Star Wars movie in someone's mind. Here it's number 3. But at least 2 bad prequel movies could not diminish his mystique. And the mystique of the Force associated with that character when Tarkin tells him, you're the last devotee of that weird religion, that's dead now. Is pretty cool because he's connected with something far beyond just a physically intimidating presence. There's something greater behind the mask that you get all through the first film that takes on greater depth and complexity with the rest of the original trilogy. So iconic villain, one of the greatest villains in cinema history. He's number 2 character for me.
That's a really good point about him being connected to the Force, because in the first film, he isn't just the paper mache or the heavy or whatever. He says, this is insignificant next to the power of the Force. And he's actually another one of our instructors as the audience on what the Force is. And when you have the bad guy believing in the same thing that the archetype good guy, which is Obi-Wan in the film, believes in, then it becomes very interesting because they have a philosophy in common.
He's really a Lucifer type character to me. He's much not just totally evil. There's something deeper behind there which makes him that much more frightening, and it made you want to know, well, what really is behind the mask and what was he before he became this thing. Unfortunately, the prequels didn't really live up to that for me, to give the backstory that you hoped for, but still, that didn't diminish what he is as a villain. And the end of the wonderful corridor scene in Rogue One, just gave the solidified how spectacular he is as a dark side character. So number 2 for me.
Sorry, there's an interesting thing I've noticed 2 of you talking about his character, and then you say, "Oh, it's not ruined by the prequels," but then you cite Corellian cited Anakin as a separate character. And you guys dance back and forth between treating those two like separate characters in the
Oh,
same
they
character.
are separate characters for me.
Yeah.
And they're
They
totally
absolutely
separate
are.
characters.
Yeah, they are. separate
I
characters.
remember saying when we were talking about the Revenge of the Sith, I said and the prequels, I said this is more Emperor Palpatine's story to me than it is Anakin's, because I just don't see Anakin and Vader as the same person. There's a couple of moments where you kind of come close, but no matter what trappings you put on, the scripts weren't good enough.
He doesn't even feel like the same person when he goes, no!
No, no.
That's his only appearance in the
No.
movies.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like it when he walks out and they're looking at the Death Star being constructed, but only because we're put in a familiar scenario,
familiar setting and scenario. Yeah.
But that's a tough. This is what we're talking about. Is R2 could have been a disaster? There's a fine line, like they say in Spinal Tap, a fine line between genius and stupidity.
Well, they did step over that line with flying flame shooting R2.
Sure, yeah. And just like they did with 3PO when he's cracking too many jokes and everything.
And Flippy Dippy Yoda too. So
yeah, there's people who love Flippy Dippy Yoda, and
I have a mixed feelings about Flippy Dippy Yoda.
I really think a lot of stuff was done to test to see if they could do it, because you got to remember this is a movie making machine that Lucasfilm was, and I think he was pushing people to do things to see if he could do it. And he always wanted to see Yoda fight and jump around, and so he just made it. He didn't really care if it was good or not. He's just going to have him do it and see how it comes out. I think a lot of times Lucas is thinking 10 movies ahead. Like, if I get this done, then I can do Flippy Dippy, the Flipper remake with Flippy Dippy Flipper. But
I don't know about Lucas's three-dimensional chess player, because a lot of his initial impulses feel like 12-year-old boy writing,
Well, he wrote it probably when he
Vader
was
in a lava castle.
Yeah, I would bet.
He probably wrote a lot of it when he was 12, and it just took him all this time. Technology didn't catch up. It was almost impossible to make the first one.
Yeah.
I admire that he sticks to it.
Believe me, it's not a blanket insult. It is.
And when he changes it, we get midichlorians. We get from the forces and energy fields generated by all living things to midichlorians. So
that's as 12-year-old as you get, though. That's as 12-year-old boy because
with a science set.
What I mean is if you put I've seen more than a few nerdy guys do their first foray into writing, and they go for intimate descriptions of the technology or of some dumbass political thing or these details that only frickin' 12-year-old guys care about and nobody else in the world does. And that's what the prequels feel like to me, is unchecked Lucas without somebody telling him, oh, for fuck's sake, don't put him in a lava castle.
What do you mean? Rick McCallum was right there.
Yeah. I don't even know what that joke means.
Just watch a documentary. Watch a documentary, you uncultured.
I know. I stand by my thing, because there's
you're about to be evacuated in your moment of triumph.
Such an example of the worst impulse.
Grand Moff Tarka, we have analyzed their attack, and there is a danger. Do you want in this freaking chat or not? Okay.
I'm you invited me in. If you don't want to hear what I have to say.
There's going to be a chain reaction.
It's the escape pod.
All right.
It's funny because I'm only insulting the prequels, which you guys are insulting pretty freely. So
I'm just saying we need to get back to the where are we? You and I were derailed.
My 2 and 1.
Okay, Gorillian.
All right.
2 and 1.
So my 2 and 1, I'm just going to say them together. Number 2 is Han Solo. Number 1 is Darth Vader. I could sit here and say that I could switch them, but I really can't, because Darth Vader's basically been my number 1 since I was 10 years old in 1977, June 77 at the Memphian Theater, and saw it for the first time. I just immediately was focused on this character, and I've loved it ever since. So I missed whatever just happened. So
that's good. You're in ecstasy.
Anyway,
go ahead.
You guys go ahead. Gundark, you're number 1.
Oh golly, okay. You know what this is. Why do you even need to ask me? It's Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
What?
It's Luke Skywalker. I mean, I was in love with Luke Skywalker from the moment he walked on screen.
Chewie and a Scout Walker? I thought for sure it was Chewie and a Scout Walker with a bobblehead.
No, I might
it's not a Porg?
I might reconsider my list for Chewie and the Scout Walker. No, it's Luke Skywalker. No. And again, I think about like how old I was. Since I was a prepubescent girl falling in love with the cute whining teenage boy, who had a little bit of rebellion, but you could tell was totally loyal, and reliable. I wasn't old enough to appreciate the dangerous charisma of Han Solo yet, so it had Luke at my heart all the way. And then most important, and I think we may have talked about this before when we were ranking the movies, is that I grew up with him in real time. I have a lot of fictional heroes in different narratives that I love, especially like Arthurian legend. But none of them did I grow up with in real time. So he was introduced to me whenever I was a kid, and then as his story arc, as he matures and grows, I was growing into adulthood. And so the story arc kind of matched what I was sensing in my own personal growth. And so I can't help, he's my all-time hero. I can't help that, because I think it's just the timing of my life when that hero came along. But other than that, he's a great character in that he's an everyman type character. Similar to Han Solo, we talk about how Han Solo kind of draws you in if you're the skeptic, but he's the everyman idealist. You can be an everyman and be an idealist too, and have something that you want to believe in, something you want to achieve. And he has that idealism and complete loyalty that for all of his whining, and all of his stupid failures and all of the foolishness that he exhibited throughout the original trilogy, you knew he had the heart of gold. And you knew that he was someone that you could believe in, that you could follow as a hero. Even whenever you find out that he's the son of the Dark Jedi Knight, and that he could very well go in that direction himself, that he pulls himself back from that, gives you hope that you can pull yourself out of whatever dark space you're in your life. So for me, and of course, everything was based around this character in the first place, even though originally Luke was intended to be a female character, as Greedo said in the original screen treatments. The story arc of this character is kind of the hero's story arc that I gravitate towards most in my life. So he's number one character. No other character will ever unseat him in number one spot. I don't care if Star Wars continued on for millennia. Luke Skywalker's number one character for me.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay. Well
and
said.
You leave the room silent again.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
brilliant mind.
Can I ask my irreverent question from the beginning of your thing? So once again, you say something at the beginning, and my brain's going on that the whole time while you're laying out this serious. In your adolescent fantasies of Luke Skywalker, when he talked to you, was he whiny? Was he like, Gundar, kiss me?
When was he never not? When was he was always that.
Let's touch my power converters.
He was always that. No, I related to him in part, I think, because of that. I wasn't cool. I couldn't relate totally to Han Solo. Han Solo's too cool for me, Han Solo's awesome, but I could never think of myself as being a Han Solo. I could think of myself as being a Luke Skywalker, So, yeah, he was always the whiner, and I don't mind that. Mm-hmm. Okay, who's next?
All right.
I think I'm last, right? And
with,
my number one's Luke Skywalker as well, for all the reasons said. And when I was a kid, I don't think I noticed the whininess that much, although I remember us laughing about the power converters line even then. And if you want to, blow your mind further, go and watch a YouTube video where it says Luke asks questions. And almost every line from Star Wars that he has is a question. What's that flashing? Why don't you outrun him? I thought you said this thing was fast. Anyway, everything he says is a question. So he is the original Captain Obvious Star Wars character. If Lucas thought, you needed explaining to you, Luke would just ask the question, and Obi-Wan or Han or somebody would tell him the answer and tell us the answer. So he was burdened with that. But he also had the most iconic moment in Star Wars, according to us. Did all three of us agree? The double sunset from Star Wars.
That was,
I think all three of us put that as our number one Star Wars moment. Luke was my hero in that moment. Didn't matter anything else that came before or after. Really, I mean, after, of course, it did. But that I identified with that person looking at that sunset in that moment. I knew exactly what he was thinking. I knew exactly what he was feeling. I had felt the same way plenty of times. And you're right. I wasn't old enough to be Han Solo yet, and I didn't have that kind of mind, to be so worldly as Han Solo is. But I admired Han Solo because he shot first.
Yeah.
and he had a great sense of humor. But I just wanted to see Luke succeed. I was in it to see Luke succeed, and they brilliantly, threw a lot of curveballs at us with Empire and Jedi and all that. But that's what made that moment when he declares himself a Jedi Knight so effective. Nobody has to tell him, oh, by the way, now you're a Jedi. He knows. He claims his own identity because he looks inside. He sees all the potentials and possibilities, and he knows with conviction exactly what he is, which makes The Last Jedi such a freaking disgrace because knowing his identity so strongly and everything he went through to earn that, and then to turn around and curse that legacy a handful of decades later because of his nephew, after he faced down the two most powerful evil guys in the galaxy. Anyway, no justification for that. The writing let us down. And, I guess drinking green alien titty milk from the tap will make you more powerful than anyone can possibly imagine, because he did it daily. And let's hope that paid off. It's just full of proteins and all kinds of muscle building, and vitamins. But anyway, but Luke is my favorite character, of course, probably always will be, because I'm just old and set in my ways. And it isn't Star Wars without him. All right, I get it. I'm a whiny fanboy. It doesn't make my point of view illegitimate, actually.
No, it doesn't at all make your point. But the Gundark arc is like, she says something at the beginning that I latch onto, and then she goes into this stuff, and we're all like, oh. And then the Greedo arc is, oh, blah, 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 this is wonderful, wonderful. And then the new movie.
Before the dark times.
A little bit of frost.
Before the Johnson.
Okay, I'll give you a reverse on the Gundark.
This Johnson is fully operational.
I'm gonna end this rating by pointing out that Obi-Wan Kenobi did not make it into my top 10 at all.
That's stunning.
Obi-Wan Kenobi did not, because he is the lion.
Neither did Cad Bane, which is a disgrace because the Carillion had him so high. Neither did Clone number 12. No. Didn't watch the emotional arc from Clone Wars? What's wrong with you?
No, Obi-Wan did not.
Massage Ventress didn't.
I'm pretty sure the originator of the Obi-Wan, you lying sack of shit, was you. I'm pretty sure it was you.
Was her?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
It was her.
I think it may have been me.
She's never really hear it in your voice too.
She's never really.
Can you just say it really effectively? Like, Obi-Wan, you lying sack of shit. Could you say that for me?
Obi-Wan, you lying sack of shit.
Actually, crap, but yeah.
And I want an Obi-Wan movie. I want an Obi-Wan movie, but Obi-Wan was a lying sack of shit.
You just want him to be put under oath in the movie. It's like, Obi-Wan will talk to the prosecutor, but not under oath. I don't understand why.
I'll go into that in another episode.
Your proposed trickster arc is a good. That would be a good.
Yeah. I wish that had happened, because But I'll go. We have other topics planned that will bring up Obi-Wan as a lying sack of shit later that I can deal with.
I also am very saddened that no one had C-3PO in their top 10 list. That is sad, but there's too many bad C-3PO moments, I think. Prequels. He didn't come out of the prequels as good as Vader did. No,
he really didn't.
He was tarnished.
He was actually in them.
His goldenrod drooped instead of mightily standing. So, plus I met the wonderful gentleman, and so it didn't make my top 10 for that reason as well. You were all there. Don't deny it.
I wasn't.
You weren't. I just imagined you there.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's our top 10, and we're gonna compile it I'll tack on a little thing saying what the Cantina Club's official top 10 characters, but come on. Despite the curveballs thrown in by Carillion, I don't know that Cad Bane's going to make the official top 10. Fives is a pretty cool character, though. I mean, and we need to do other characters because I so badly wanted to put the Stormtrooper. I wanted to put Wedge on here.
I wanted to put Wedge.
I wanted Finn.
And I wanted to put, I wanted to put Grand Admiral Thrawn, but he just couldn't crack the top 10 when we were considering all the movie characters. So.
Yeah.
Other characters, you mean like what?
The ones that aren't the main. When you say a top 10,
big 4
you're kind of handcuffed
into
into going with. There's like 15 main Star Wars characters that you almost want to put in that top 10. We didn't even get C-3PO in there.
So the other list is going to put Porkins on, right?
Yeah, how can you put Porkins on the list and leave 3PO off? So yeah, we need a list that isn't, the official. Like we need to take it seriously, y'all, because it's Star Wars and stuff.
So my favorite quirk characters of Star Wars.
Yes, the others.
Yeah, my
Admiral Akbar made it in the top 10 for me. He ought to have been in the quirk.
Yeah, Admiral Akbar made it, but Obi-Wan didn't.
Obi-Wan did not.
I sense a
Admiral Akbar never lied to me.
Wow. Is that a t-shirt? It really ought to be.
Admiral Akbar never lied to me.
Well, my vote, I would like to do a top 10, or at least even a top 5 non-movie characters.
Yeah.
Characters that don't appear in the films.
Mara Jade.
Well, I've got to watch Clone Wars now.
You guys be sure and invite me for that one so I could sit here absolutely befuddled.
He'll be like top 10 characters not in Star Wars. Okay, Silent Bob.
Captain Ahab.
Right, Captain Ahab. Who can forget the guy from Grapes of Wrath?
Bartleby. Oh, humanity.
Okay, anyway, so let's wrap this up. Somebody, Carillion, help us.
All right, here we go. So that was our top 10. So chime in. You know where to find us on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever else. I'm on our YouTube page. Like us, comment, tell us your top.
Mississippi, Florida.
Tell us your top 10.
DC.
Let us know if we missed anything. So that's it for now. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Thanks for having me.
We all know around here, and Solo always does shots first. Singing yup no, yup yup. You're singing yup no, chucha. Yup no, no. At the Cantina Club.
God.